Have you ever stopped to think about what really happens to a soldier when he returns from war? I'm not talking about Hollywood movies, waving flags, or exciting parades through the city. I'm talking about the stark reality, that silent return, where there are no cameras, no applause, just a man carrying an invisible weight on his shoulders. Marcus Thompson was only 23 years old when he embarked for Afghanistan. He left a small town in Texas full of ideals, dreams, with the conviction of someone who believes they are making a difference. 3 years later, he returned, physically whole, technically alive, but something essential inside him had been shattered in the mountains of the Middle East. The scene at Dallas Airport was exactly as you're imagining it now. Cold, empty, almost bureaucratic. No military band, no patriotic speech. Just a battered suitcase, a uniform that no longer fit properly on his emaciated body, and his mother waiting on the other side of the gate with that smile that tried to hide her worry. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you and perhaps even revolt you. Marcus hugged his family that day, but his eyes didn't smile. There was something different in that look, a distance that no hug seemed capable of bridging. His brothers noticed. His girlfriend, who had waited for him during all those endless months, also noticed, but nobody knew exactly what it was or how to deal with it. Have you ever been through this? Ever felt like you came back from somewhere but a part of you stayed behind? That's exactly what thousands of war veterans experience every day, but rarely talk about. Marcus did come back alive from the war. He survived the gunfire, the explosions, the scorching desert, and the freezing nights. He saw friends fall beside him. He made decisions that no 20-something should have to make, and he returned home, carrying each of those memories like shards buried too deep to be unearthed. In the first few days, everyone tried to act as if everything was normal. Family barbecues, beers with friends, attempts to resume their routines. But Marcus could no longer fit into that world. The conversations seemed superficial. People's concerns seemed insignificant. How could he care who won the last football game when he could still hear the cries of his wounded comrades echoing in his mind? The war had ended in Afghanistan, but inside Marcus, it continued every day, every single night. And what hurts most in this whole story is knowing that Marcus wasn't alone. There are hundreds of thousands of veterans scattered across the United States, living through the exact same silent drama. They return home, hoping to rebuild their lives, hoping for the support they were promised, hoping to find a place in this world that moved on while they were bleeding in distant lands. But what many of them find is very different from what they imagined. What you need to understand now is that Marcus's real battle was only beginning, and it would be far more brutal than any combat he faced on the battlefield. And you know what's scariest about all this? It's that you might know someone going through exactly this right now. Maybe it's that uncle who came back changed, that neighbor who barely leaves the house, or even you watching, feeling like you left a part of yourself somewhere in the past. Have you ever been through this? Have you ever felt like you survived something difficult, but nobody around you can really understand the weight you carry? Look, if this topic resonates with you, if it's touching something deep inside, I'd like to ask you something. Leave a comment below about what has resonated with you the most so far. It could be a word, a phrase, or even your own story. Because it's through these conversations, this sincere sharing, that we realize we're not alone on this journey. And if you're enjoying this content, don't forget to leave a like below. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people who need to hear stories like Marcus's. These are real stories of transformation, of pain that becomes purpose. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the bell, because every week I bring stories that can completely change your perspective on overcoming and starting over. Shall we do this together? Now, back to Marcus. The first week at home was strange, but still tolerable. He slept in his old room with the posters of rock bands he used to listen to in high school. Everything seemed frozen in time, exactly as he had left it. But Marcus wasn't that boy anymore. He had aged decades in just 3 years. The nights were the worst time. When the house was silent and everyone was asleep, that's when the ghosts came to visit him. The sound of a door slamming became an explosion. The neighbor's dog barking became a warning scream. He would wake up drenched in sweat, his heart racing, ready for a threat that no longer existed. At least not there, not in that quiet Texas suburb. But try explaining that to your brain when it's been trained for years to be in a constant state of alert. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because what happened to Marcus in the following weeks reveals a hidden truth that no one wants to admit. When he enlisted at the age of 20, full of courage and determination, promises were made. Beautiful, eloquent promises, the kind that fill your heart with pride. They said that when he returned, there would be complete support, top-notch medical care to treat any injury, physical or mental, transition programs for the job market, guaranteed employment opportunities, free education, a secure future for someone willing to give their life for their country. Marcus believed every word. His parents believed, his girlfriend Jennifer believed, everyone believed that he would be protected, cared for, and valued when he returned. The reality Marcus encountered was brutal and utterly different. 2 weeks after arriving home, he tried to schedule an appointment at the nearest Veterans Medical Center. The wait, 4 months. 4 months for a first psychological consultation when he could barely sleep 3 hours a night without waking up screaming. When he finally managed to speak to someone, it was a 15-minute session where he had to summarize 3 years of trauma in objective answers to a standardized form. There was no connection, no empathy, just cold, efficient bureaucracy. Marcus left feeling more alone than ever. And what about the job they promised? That's one of the most infuriating parts of this whole story. Did you know that the unemployment rate among war veterans in the United States is almost double the national average in some states? Marcus had valuable skills. He was a team leader, made decisions under extreme pressure, had military discipline, knew how to work in a team, and solve complex problems. On paper, he was the perfect candidate. But when companies saw on his resume that he had just returned from a combat zone, the conversation changed. There was unspoken fear, veiled prejudice. Is he stable? Will he freak out in the middle of the workday? Can he handle the pressure of a corporate environment? Doors closed one after another, and Marcus began to realize that the promises were just pretty propaganda to recruit idealistic young people. Marcus's transformation, or rather his deterioration, happened gradually and silently. In the first few months, he still tried to keep up appearances. He woke up early, showered, sent resumes, went to interviews. But every rejection felt like another blow to someone who was already reeling. Jennifer tried to help. She really tried. She read articles about PTSD, about how to support veterans, about breathing and meditation techniques. But how do you help someone who can't even explain what they're feeling? How do you hug someone who is mentally still on the battlefield, even when they are physically right there in front of you? The ghosts Marcus carried were invisible to everyone around him, but devastatingly real to him. At night, when he finally managed to fall asleep, it was always the same scene repeating itself. The patrol in a village in Afghanistan, the exact moment before the explosion, the faces of the friends who didn't return. He would wake up in a cold sweat, his heart racing, and it would take him hours to convince his body that he was safe, that he was home, that the war was over. But was it really? During the day, Marcus pretended everything was fine. He smiled when he needed to, talked about trivial matters, went to family lunches, but inside he was waging a silent war against his own mind. The triggers were everywhere, hidden in the most everyday situations. A trip to the supermarket became a reconnaissance operation. Marcus couldn't enter crowded aisles without feeling anxiety creep up his spine. He always needed to see all the exits, stand with his back to the wall, keep everyone in his field of vision. People thought it was strange, but he couldn't explain that his brain was still in survival mode. In July of that year, the city organized an Independence Day celebration with fireworks. Marcus was at home when the first bang echoed through the neighborhood. His body reacted before his mind. He threw himself to the ground, covered his head, his heart racing to 200 beats per minute. Jennifer found him trembling in the corner of the room, sweating, his eyes glazed over somewhere in the distance. She cried that night because she finally understood that the man who returned was no longer the same man who left. Social isolation came as a natural consequence. Marcus began to refuse invitations. Parties were too exhausting, too many people, too much noise, too many stimuli. He could no longer connect with superficial conversations about TV series, neighborhood gossip, or traffic complaints. How could he pretend these things mattered when he had seen things most people will never see? His childhood friends tried to include him at first, but gradually gave up. It's tiring trying to maintain a friendship with someone who always cancels, who is never present, even when physically there, who seems to be behind an impossible-to-penetrate glass. And Marcus didn't blame them. He was also tired of himself. Jennifer endured for a year and a half, trying to reach someone who was increasingly distant, more lost within himself. She loved Marcus, loved the boy he had been, but she was exhausted from living with a ghost. The arguments became frequent. She demanded that he seek more help, that he try harder, that he return to being who he was. But Marcus didn't know how to explain that that boy had died somewhere in the mountains of Afghanistan, and that the man who returned was just a shadow trying to learn to exist again. On a cold November night, Jennifer packed her bags. She cried, apologized, said she needed to take care of her own mental health too. Marcus watched her leave without being able to feel much. He was already so emotionally numb that even the loss of someone he loved seemed distant, unreal. It was after the separation that everything truly fell apart. Marcus had gotten a temporary job at a mechanic shop, but his emotional instability caused him to miss days at a time. His boss, a 60-year-old man who was normally understanding, had no choice but to fire him. Marcus no longer had Jennifer, no job, no purpose. He then decided to do something drastic. He took the little money he had saved and bought a one-way ticket to Detroit, not because he had anything there, but precisely because he had nothing. He wanted to start over far from everyone who knew him, far from expectations, far from pitying glances. Detroit greeted him with its raw, unfiltered reality. Marcus rented a tiny apartment in a dilapidated building on the city's east side. The place smelled of mildew, had damp patches on the walls, and a heater that only worked half the time. But he didn't care. He was barely truly living, merely existing in an automatic, meaningless routine. He would wake up, look at the cracked ceiling, wonder why he was still alive, and fall asleep again. The days blended into a gray, desperate mass. His money quickly ran out. He stopped eating properly, lost more weight, and stopped caring about his appearance. It was on a particularly difficult night, in the middle of January, with snow falling outside and the heater broken, that Marcus hit rock bottom. He sat on the cold floor of his apartment, leaning against the peeling wall, staring into nothingness. And then the thought came, clear and terrifyingly tempting. I survived the war to die here, alone, forgotten, with no one. He began to calculate. He had nothing left. No family nearby, no friends, no job prospects, no hope. The pain was constant, unbearable, and he was so tired of carrying this weight. For the first time since returning, Marcus seriously considered ending it all. It was no longer a passing idea, it was a plan forming, and the most terrifying part. How much sense it seemed to make, how much it seemed to be the only way out of this mental prison he lived in. But life has a strange way of intervening at the most unlikely moments. 3 days after that terrible night, Marcus was sitting on a park bench in Phoenix. He had gone there for no specific reason. He just needed to get out of that suffocating apartment. It was a sunny day, a stark contrast to the winter he had left behind in Detroit, and he found himself thinking about how normal everything seemed to the people around him. Children were playing, couples were walking hand in hand, dogs were chasing balls. Life went on, indifferent to his suffering. That's when an older man, perhaps 50 years old, sat down next to him on the bench. They remained silent for a few minutes, just observing the movement of the park. Then the man turned to Marcus and said in a calm but firm voice, "I know what you're going through. I saw it in your eyes. I've been through it too." Marcus looked at the man for the first time. There was something familiar about that scarred face, those eyes that carried heavy stories. The man continued, "Vietnam. I came back in '73. It took me 15 years to be able to sleep a full night, another 10 to accept that what I lived through didn't completely define me." Marcus felt something break inside him. It was the first time someone had truly seen through him, who recognized the pain without him needing to explain. The man introduced himself as Robert, and for the next 2 hours, sitting on that bench, he recounted his own journey back from hell. He spoke of suicide attempts, of years living on the streets, of the shame of asking for help, of the day he finally understood that asking for help wasn't weakness, but the only real way to survive. Robert was there in that square for a reason. He was part of a local veterans organization dedicated to finding other veterans in vulnerable situations. He had learned to recognize the signs, the body language of someone on edge, and he saw in Marcus the same silent despair he himself had carried decades ago. Before leaving, Robert gave Marcus a card. "Thursday, 7 o'clock in the evening, at the Methodist Church on Oak Street. Veterans meeting. Just show up. You don't have to speak if you don't want to. You just have to be there. You're not alone in this, brother." Marcus put the card in his pocket and went back to his apartment. He didn't know if he would go to that meeting, but for the first time in months, there was a tiny spark of something he had forgotten what it was like. Hope. Thursday arrived, and Marcus almost didn't go. He stood at the apartment door for 20 minutes, debating with himself. Every fiber of his being wanted to stay there, hidden, isolated. But there was something in Robert's voice, in the way he looked at Marcus, that pushed him out. The Methodist Church was an old but well-maintained building, with warm lights in the windows. Marcus went inside and followed the signs to the basement, where he could hear muffled voices. When he opened the door, he saw about 15 men and 3 women sitting in a circle. Different ages, different wars, but all with the same weight in their eyes. Robert was there and smiled when he saw Marcus. "Guys, this is Marcus. Marcus, this is the group." There were no intrusive questions, no judgment. Marcus sat and just listened that first night, and what he heard changed something fundamental within him. Those people were telling stories that could be his own. The gray-haired man spoke about how he couldn't watch action movies without having panic attacks. The woman in her 40s described how she lost custody of her daughter because she couldn't control her anger outbursts. A young veteran, perhaps Marcus's age, wept as he recounted how he almost lost everything before arriving at that group. And for the first time since returning from the war, Marcus didn't feel alone. He didn't feel like an alien trying to survive on a planet that didn't understand him. There were other people who knew exactly what it was like to wake up in a panic in the middle of the night, who knew what it was like to feel guilty for being alive when others didn't return. who knew the crushing weight of trying to appear normal when inside you are shattered. Marcus began attending the meetings religiously. Every Thursday at 7 in the evening, he was there. In the first few weeks, he just listened. But little by little, with the gentle encouragement of Robert and the others, he began to share small pieces of his story. And each time he spoke, each time he let out a little of that pain that was poisoning him inside, it was as if a small part of the weight was lifted. It didn't disappear completely, but it became a little more bearable. Robert became a kind of unofficial mentor to Marcus. He had gone through everything Marcus was going through and had not only survived, but found a way to live again. He taught Marcus practical anxiety management techniques, connected him with a therapist specializing in war trauma who had a shorter waiting list, and even helped him find a part-time job in a carpentry shop. The journey of rebuilding wasn't linear, and that's important to understand. There were relapses. There were days when Marcus woke up and thought he wouldn't be able to get out of bed. There were nights when the nightmares returned in full force, and he thought all the progress had been an illusion. But the difference now was that he wasn't alone in those moments. He had Robert's number. He had the numbers of other people in the group. When darkness threatened to engulf him again, he picked up the phone and called. And there was always someone on the other end, ready to listen, ready to remind him that he had overcome difficult days before and would overcome them again. It was in the carpentry shop that something unexpected happened. Marcus discovered that working with wood had an almost meditative effect on him. There was something deeply satisfying in taking a raw piece of material and transforming it into something beautiful and functional. He started as a general helper, but his boss, a third-generation Italian named Tony, recognized his talent and dedication when he saw it. Tony began teaching Marcus more advanced techniques, trusting him with more complex projects. And for the first time since returning from the war, Marcus felt he was creating something, building something, instead of just destroying or surviving. He began making small projects in his spare time, decorative boxes, picture frames, small sculptures. And when he gave these pieces to people in the veterans group, he saw the impact that a simple gesture of affection and attention could have. 2 years after that first Thursday at the Methodist Church, Marcus was a different person. Not completely healed, because war trauma isn't something you simply overcome and forget. But he had learned to live with it, had developed tools to manage the symptoms, had built a support network that held him up on difficult days. And it was during a conversation with Robert that an idea emerged that would completely change the course of Marcus's life. "Have you ever thought about doing for others what we did for you?" Robert asked. "There are so many veterans out there, lost as you were, who need to hear that they're not alone, that there is a way out." The idea planted a seed in Marcus's mind, and that seed began to grow. Marcus started small. He began attending other veterans' meetings around the city, no longer just as a participant, but offering help and actively sharing his story. He noticed the new veterans arriving with that lost look he recognized so well, and he made a point of approaching them, making it clear that there was a place for them there. He used his carpentry skills to give small, free workshops to unemployed veterans, teaching them a trade that could become a source of income. The response was overwhelming. Veterans who were adrift without purpose found in those hours working with wood not only a practical skill, but a moment of peace, connection, and belonging. Over time, and with the help of Robert and other senior members of the group, Marcus created a small but powerful community organization called Brothers in Arms. It wasn't anything sophisticated at first, just a rented room where veterans could meet every day, not just on Thursdays. A safe place where they could be vulnerable without judgment, where they could ask for help without shame, where they could learn trades and practical skills that would help them rebuild their lives. Marcus used every penny he could save from his carpentry work to keep the project alive. He wrote proposals for small local grants, organized raffles and fundraising events, and solicited donations of materials for the workshops. The transformation that took place in Marcus over those years was impossible to ignore. The man who sat alone in a cold Detroit apartment, contemplating ending his own life, was now helping 50 veterans a month rebuild their lives. 50 people who were lost, broken, hopeless, finding a way back through the organization Marcus created. He didn't do it alone, of course. There was a whole network of veterans, volunteer therapists, skills instructors, community members who believed in the mission. But Marcus was the heart of it all, living proof that transformation was possible. The numbers were staggering when you stopped to look. In 3 years of operation, Brothers in Arms had helped over 1,800 veterans in some way. Some just needed a place to talk. Others needed help finding housing, jobs, medical treatment. 300 veterans had gone through the vocational training programs that Marcus helped develop. 86 had secured stable jobs after participating in the workshops. 23 veterans who were living on the streets now had their own homes. And most importantly, there were 7 people who, in later conversations, admitted that they were planning suicide when they found the organization and that the support they received there saved their lives. 7 lives. When Marcus thought about that, when he truly absorbed the impact of that number, he had to pause and take a deep breath. They were 7 fathers, sons, brothers, friends who were still here because he decided to transform his pain into purpose. But Marcus's story isn't just about war and abandonment. It's about what we do when life breaks us into pieces so small that we think we'll never be whole again. It's about that crucial decision we all face at some point in our lives, even if we haven't gone to war. Are you fighting your own war today? Maybe it's not a literal battlefield, but it could be a seemingly endless depression, an addiction you can't break, a childhood trauma that still haunts you, a grief that seems impossible to overcome. It could be the crushing loneliness of feeling invisible in a world full of people. It could be the weight of expectations you can't fulfill, of dreams that have died, of relationships that have shattered. Each person has their own invisible wars, their own battles that no one sees, but that are absolutely real and devastating. And here's the truth that Marcus's story teaches. Surrender isn't the only option. It may seem the easiest, the most tempting when you're at rock bottom. But there's another choice, however impossible it may seem at the moment. You can choose to ask for help. Even if every cell in your body is screaming that you're a burden, that nobody cares, that you should be able to solve this on your own. You can choose to wake up tomorrow and try again, even if today was a complete failure. You can choose to believe, even if only for a tiny moment, that this isn't all you are, that your story doesn't end here. Marcus made these choices day after day, hour after hour, sometimes minute after minute in the most difficult moments. And these accumulated choices, these small acts of resistance against despair, are what built the way back. Now, the part that impacts me most in this whole story, and that I need to share with you before we continue, is that Marcus was one of the lucky ones. Yes, he went through indescribable hell. Yes, he almost didn't survive. But he met Robert that day in the square. He found that support group. He had access, albeit late and imperfect, to some kind of help. But the frightening reality is that thousands of veterans don't have that luck. At this very moment, while you're watching, there are war veterans living under bridges in Los Angeles, sleeping in overcrowded shelters in Seattle, begging on street corners in New York. People who gave years of their lives, who sacrificed their mental and physical health, who lost friends and carry unimaginable trauma, have been abandoned by the same country that promised to take care of them. The statistics are shocking when you really pay attention. More than 40,000 veterans are homeless in the United States on any given night. The suicide rate among veterans is 1.5 times higher than in the general population. Veterans represent only 7% of the American population, but they constitute 11% of all homeless adults. And these are just the official numbers. The reality is likely even worse, because many veterans simply disappear from the system, living on the fringes of society, invisible and forgotten. They return from serving their country and find there is no place for them here. The healthcare system for veterans is overburdened and underfunded. Waiting lists for psychological care can take months. Transition programs to civilian life are inadequate or non-existent. And society at large prefers not to look too closely at this uncomfortable reality. Marcus understands this better than anyone. That's why he doesn't stop. That's why he continues expanding Brothers in Arms, seeking more resources, training more volunteers, reaching more veterans. That's why he shares his story whenever he can, even when it's painful to relive those most difficult moments. Because every time he speaks, there's a chance that another lost veteran will listen and think, if he could do it, maybe I can too. There's a chance that someone in the audience will decide to do something, donate time or resources, create more support spaces, push for political changes that truly protect those who protected the country. Comment below. Transformation is possible if this story touched you in any way. Look, if you've made it this far with me, I truly appreciate it. I know it wasn't a light-hearted video, but these are the stories that need to be told, you know. These are the stories that show that no matter how deep you fall, there's always the possibility of rebuilding. And if you want to keep up with more content like this, real stories of people who transformed pain into purpose, who were reborn when everything seemed lost, subscribe to the channel. Every week I bring you stories that will make you reflect, that will show you the human side behind the headlines, the statistics, the cold numbers. And look, I know you might be going through your own battle right now, even if it's completely different from Marcus's. So comment below, I'm with you until the end, so I know you made it this far, that this message reached you. I want to know I'm not talking alone, that these stories are making sense to someone on the other side of the screen. And if this video touched you in any way, if it made you feel something, leave a like. That helps me understand that this type of content matters, that it's worth continuing to bring these stories to you. And before you go, there's a video here that I think will perfectly complement what we've talked about. It's about another impossible transformation, another person everyone thought wouldn't make it, but who proved that human strength goes far beyond what we imagine. Click and continue with me there, because the journey doesn't end here. See you in the next video.